The content of this podcast is intended to provide general information about Tarion and new home warranty coverage in Ontario. The content is accurate as of the date of the recording, but may later be affected by changes in legislation or policy. The content should not be used as legal advice. You are encouraged to consult with your lawyer if you are seeking legal advice related to buying a new home or about the warranty program. Please visit Tarion.com for the most current information about your new home warranty.
This is SSN
Story Studio Network.
So you've decided to buy a home. Congratulations on being in the position to do so. And now that you're ready to take the leap, where do you begin? What are some things you need to consider when starting your home buying process? What are the questions you need to be asking? Welcome to Unpacked, a Tarion podcast about the new home journey in Ontario. By law, all new homes built in Ontario are provided with a warranty by the builder. Tarion's role is to ensure that buyers and owners of new homes receive the coverage they are entitled to under their builder's warranty. I'm Barb DiGiulio, and in this episode, we take a deep dive into everything you need to know during your home buying journey. Joining me today are Tamina Ahmadi, Manager Underwriting at Tarion, and Catherine Longo, part of Tarion's legal team. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Thanks so much for doing this. Such a huge thing to be buying a home, and there are so many things to consider. Let's start with, and I know this is a big question, but we'll just take it piece by piece. What are some things every home buyer should do? Tamina, let me start with you. What are some of the things that come to mind for you?
That's a great question, Barb. And like you said, there's a lot to unpack because home buying is one of the biggest decisions you make in your life. And I think it's really important that once as you make the decision, but the aftermath of that, right? It's kind of like planning a wedding. You say yes, and then all of a sudden things start moving really fast. So it's kind of the same. I would say the best way to kind of go about it is start by, becoming aware, research the builder, research the process, reach out to industry professionals. I mean, there's real estate brokers, real estate lawyers, mortgage brokers, really understand what you can afford, affordability. And after that, I would say then if you're looking for a new home, then you would look to the Ontario Builder Directory to look at your builder's information and get all the right information. And just honestly, at the end of the day, it's just getting educated on the process.
Well, and there are different parts to it. And, I loved your point about becoming informed, educating yourself, because I think that's a huge part of what we're doing here is giving people the information that they definitely need as home buyers, but it's a lot of information. So we're breaking it up and taking people through the process. And Catherine, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is once you find a builder, things that you are going to be discussing with your builder, changes, upgrades, stuff like that. It's important, I think, to have that included in writing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So when you're looking at buying a home, there are kind of two things to keep in mind in terms of the paperwork, right? The first one is make sure you understand the paperwork. And the second thing is, if it's important to you, get it in writing. So you are going to have your agreement of purchase and sale, and that's going to set out, right, the price, the type of house, the things that are included. And you want to go through that in detail with your lawyer before signing it. You want to make sure you understand it. You want to make sure that if anything's been promised, and those promises happen before you sign the agreement, that you have those added in, right, as an amendment, as a schedule, that it's in there. Because a lot of agreements will have something called an entire agreement clause. And that says that if it's not there in writing, it's not part of the agreement. So you can't rely later on. But in the sales office, I was promised this upgrade, that staircase, or anything else, because if it's not in the agreement, it's not something you're going to be able to enforce later on. If you then go to do selections, you're selecting flooring, you're selecting countertops with the builder and their design team. Anything you select, you want to make sure you have that on a selection sheet that you sign. And don't rely on verbal agreements, don't rely on text messages, don't rely on anything that nebulous. You want it in writing, signed, so that you have clarity and you have something you can rely on later on to enforce if you need to.
Tamina, would you say that part of the initial stages of buying a new home should include learning about the warranty and all the different stages of the warranty?
I think that's very important. And I mean, I can speak from my experience. I'm actually a new home condo build owner. Last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it is a lot. But what's really important about that is to know what your home comes with a warranty, but it's important to bear in mind that your builder is the first point of contact for that warranty, and then Terion backstops that, right? So whenever, for example, I did my 30-day, my year-end form, any of those items that you list on that form, your builder is the first point of contact to in ensuring that those items are resolved, or that you have a discussion about. And if at a certain point when your builder is unresponsive or doesn't get back to you, then at which point then you would engage Terion. But the goal ideally for Terion is we backstop the builder's warranties.
And Catherine, Tamina mentioned earlier about researching a builder, the kinds of questions you should be asking. And she mentioned the Ontario Builder Directory. Can you tell us a little bit more about how people can look into their builder?
Yes, so the Ontario Builder Directory will tell you whether or not your builder is registered with the HCRA, the Home Construction Regulatory Authority, to build new homes in the province of Ontario. So all new home builders have to be registered. Right? If they're not on there, then that's a red flag, right? Maybe you don't want to go forward with that builder. You want somebody who is registered, right? Later on in the process, you'll be able to see your home and your home enrollment number listed there. That may not be at the agreement of purchase and sale stage. That'll be a little bit later on in the process. But when you get your agreement of purchase and sale from the builder and you're reviewing it, it should have a warranty information sheet, and it should have a Terion addendum on it. So if those things are missing, also a red flag, right? Those are required documents to be part of your agreement.
So when we do things like, renovating our homes, let's say, you always talk to people and check out online reviews. I would think, Tamina, for something as big as purchasing an entire home, maybe that would be an idea. Is that a good idea to talk to people who have bought from this builder, check out online reviews?
100%. I think getting informed is probably the biggest thing you can do when you are looking to purchase a home, especially from a particular builder that you're interested in their homes. There's, social media, there's internet. You can look up a builder and, you very easily find reviews on them and just see some information that might be beneficial in you determining whether you want to purchase your first home or your reoccurring new home with them. Like Catherine mentioned, the Ontario Builder Directory is a great place if your builder is licensed. It gives you a summary of your builder's history, how many homes they've built, their claims history if they have had any issues in the past, and just their overall performance in a very high level perspective. So I think that's a great way to start in just getting some information on your builder and making sure that that they are licensed and that they have a decent enough history or performance that they can build you your dream home.
Catherine had mentioned earlier about checking the builder and making sure to see that they are enrolled with Terion. If there is a builder that somebody thinks they really want to do business with, but they are not enrolled with Terion, is that in the red flag category? What does that mean for the buyer?
Just to jump in a sec. So there's the builder being registered or licensed with HCRA, and then the home itself being enrolled.
Okay.
So there are two different parts to it. Once construction starts on a home, that's when the builder will enroll it with Terion. It gets an enrollment number, and that's the ID number for the home for all claims that come in. And so once you submit claim forms, each form will then be its own case under your enrollment, and the enrollment is the ID number for your home.
So then let's talk about that from the perspective of a builder not being licensed. Licensed with Terion, I assume?
With HCRA, the Home Construction Regulatory Authority.
Okay, so if someone is interested in a builder and they are not licensed, what does that mean for the buyer?
That means that they're not vetted. They're not approved to build new homes in the province. And you may not want to go forward with them as your builder.
So that's strong. I mean, we're talking about warranty, we're talking about protection. So this is a real buyer beware situation if the builder isn't licensed.
Yes.
All right. Good information. Now, when we talk about the warranty, Tamina, which homes do have warranty coverage and which maybe do not? But let's start with homes that do have warranty coverage.
So essentially, any residential, freehold, or condominium home that's built in Ontario require warranty. There are some exceptions to that rules. I mean, for example, some seasonal cottages are not covered under the warranty. Owner-built homes are not covered under the warranty. A really great place for additional information on this would be the Home Construction Regulatory Authority's website. They have advisories on the definition of a home. And it lists out, what's covered and what's not covered very simply. So if anyone's looking to purchase let's say a mobile home or a modular home or a laneway home, and they're not sure whether it has coverage, they can definitely refer to the HCRA advisory, which lists out all of that information.
Right. And Catherine, thank you so much for that correction. The builder is licensed. The home is what is enrolled. And if somebody is interested in a home that is younger than 7 years, how can they check that their home is enrolled? I think Tamina may have covered some of that, but perhaps you can go into a little bit more detail.
So if that's a case where you're going to be the second owner, say the house is 2 years old, you're buying it, you can look up on the Ontario Builder Directory, the home by address, and get the information that way. You can also reach out to Terrion. We have an Is My Home Covered email address that purchasers can reach out to us on if they have questions about whether or not their home has coverage, whether it's been enrolled.
Is that information, Tamina, ever shared by the realtor or the sellers when the home is being transferred from one owner to another, assuming it's still covered?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of times, real estate agents or brokers may not be aware how old the home is or whether the warranty applies or not. But I think for any homeowner looking to buy like you mentioned, a younger home, younger than 7 years, it's as easy as them reaching out to Terrion or checking the Ontario Builder Directory to see if the home is there.
So that's really interesting because I'm wondering, Catherine, if somebody is the first owner of a newly built home or condo, is it a good idea for them at some point just to make sure their home is enrolled?
So somebody has purchased a new home and their agreement of purchase and sale didn't have the warranty information sheet and didn't have the addendum, so they're not aware of whether or not there's coverage.
Or maybe somebody's listening to this and really didn't look at all of that very closely and they just want to make sure their home is enrolled. Is it a good idea just to double check that by contacting Terrion or looking up their home?
Oh, certainly. I mean, having more information about your rights is always better than having less information about your rights. So you can look up the address on the builder directory. You can contact us at the Is My Home Covered email address. And when you're buying a home, if you're the second owner, right, you can reach out for that because you'll need to let Terrion know that that ownership has been transferred. We'll usually ask for information about that, right? Documentation to support it so that the warranty can be transferred over because it's not an automatic step and there's no positive obligation on anybody who's selling their home if it's 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 years old to do any of that for you, right? So if you're the purchaser, you really need to make sure that you know what your rights are and to act on them to make sure that you have all the protection that you're entitled to.
Yeah, and part of what we're doing here is trying to empower, educate, inform new owners. And I wanted to ask, Tamina, maybe you can take this one. What is a certificate of completion and possession, and why is that important?
So that piece of document is actually really important for when a new built homeowner is looking to close on the home on the day of occupancy. So you cannot get occupancy of your home unless you have that certificate of completion. The mortgage company that you're most likely getting a loan from, it won't grant you the mortgage unless they have that document. So a lot of the times as a new homeowner, it is really important that at occupancy, you are provided with that document. And if you're not, you should ask your builder for it. And if your builder cannot provide that, then again, you can always reach out to Terrion to inquire about that.
When it comes to the warranty, what is the difference, Catherine, between freehold and condo?
So when we talk about freehold, we're talking about kind of a standalone private dwelling. It may be detached, semi-detached, but it's one where the home and the land belong to the purchaser. In a condominium, you have two elements to it. You have your unit that you own, and then shared areas called common elements that are owned by the condominium corporation. Right, and those are situations where you're going to pay condominium fees for their upkeep.
Are they both under warranty?
They are.
And when you buy a condo versus buying a house or a freehold, Tamina, is there an additional, I believe there's some additional cooling off period?
Yes, there's a 10-day cooling off period before the deal closes.
So does that mean, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean if I buy a condo, I have 10 days to think about whether I really want that purchase?
I think Catherine would be the better person to take this one.
All right, let's go to Catherine with this one.
I just want to back up on the word closing. So closing in real estate is when, final ownership transfers, right? Payment is made, keys are given. The cooling off period is 10 days after you sign the agreement of purchase and sale. With a condominium, you have this 10-day period to back out of it, essentially, if you change your mind, without losing out on anything, which you don't have on the freehold side. But it's going to be that initial 10 days, whereas closing may be years away if it's a pre-construction situation.
That is a very interesting point, and I'm not sure that everybody, or that's widely known about the 10-day cooling off period. And I think that's great information for people to have if they're looking at purchasing a condo. And Catherine, I believe, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit, there's also a difference in the deposit coverage for freehold homes and condos? There
is. So part of this will depend on the date of the agreement of purchase and sale. There are different amounts set out in the legislation, but let's say broadly speaking, if you have a freehold home, your agreement of purchase and sale is after January 1st, 2018, then if the purchase price of the home is $600,000 or less, your deposit is covered or protected up to $60,000. So you may have paid more than that in deposits, but the amount that you could claim under the warranty coverage is capped out at $60,000. If the purchase price is more than $600,000, then you're protected up to, you're at 10% of the purchase price, but up to a maximum of $100,000. So again, you may have paid more than that in deposit, but that's the statutory cap, or the cap under the legislation. On the condominium side, the deposit protection is capped at $20,000.
All right, this has been a lot of really good information, and I want to go over some of the key points that we've talked about. Generally, we're trying to figure out and pass on the information to buyers on how they can protect themselves. And I want to go through some of the points with both of you and have you comment. And Tamina, I know you recently went through this, which just makes it so interesting. And of course, you work for Terrion, so that gives you kind of this added level of protection because you knew a lot more going in than I'm sure the average person does. But really, is it fair to say that people should try to restrict their choices to a licensed builder?
100%. I think, if you're buying any home, my biggest advice to you would be make sure it is a licensed builder, but also a credible builder that, that they have a performance or track record with the HCRA, and you can look them up on Ontario Builder Directory.
Okay. And Catherine, we talked about this. Let's go over it again briefly. Any upgrades or anything else that you've agreed to with your builder should be included in your purchase agreement. You want anything like that in writing.
So yeah, in the purchase agreement or on a signed selection sheet. So sometimes, right, you'll have the initial purchase agreement and then a little bit later, you'll be invited to meet with the builder's design team. They show you samples, you pick various selections, right? All of that needs to be signed and in writing. If you, for some reason, need to make a change down the road, that also has to be in writing and also be signed to make sure that's a very clear change, right? You don't want to have a signed selection sheet, change your mind, and try to change it over WhatsApp, right? Like it's not going to be something you're going to be able to enforce later on.
One of the things I always do when it comes to anything is try to talk to people who are the specialists in their fields. And this is why I'm thinking maybe a good idea, Tamina, to have a real estate lawyer go over everything on your purchase agreement before you sign. Is that correct?
That's definitely correct. And I could tell you from my experience, I actually purchased an assignment sale, which essentially is somebody else bought the home before me. And before their closing came up, midway, I purchased the rights to their purchase of sale agreement. And for me, it was very important that I made sure that I picked a real estate lawyer that was experienced in this field because, assignment sales are slightly unique in their own way. And I wanted to make sure that I was protected on all fronts. And that meant, that the builder is aware what that title, the ownership is being transferred over to me, and that, anything that of the deposit that had been paid by the previous purchaser is being transferred to my account because I was going to pay the difference to the original purchaser. So I think having a professional in an industry that is experienced and skilled in that area is very important in making a decision.
Okay. And Catherine, we talked about deposits and how much of deposits are covered and how important is it that people understand not only that aspect of it, but the other warranty protections before they take possession of their new home?
Well, it's certainly important. I think there's a lot that you can learn ahead of time. I think it would be useful for most new home purchasers to spend some time on the Learning Hub that Terrence put together. So on the website is a homeowner resource and Learning Hub page, and it is full of a wealth of information, really clearly laid out on pretty much every topic on the warranty. It talks about deposits, it talks about agreements of purchase and sale, it talks about first-year warranty, second-year warranty, major structural defect warranty. It's going to lay all of that out for you so you can be informed about the entire process.
We hear so many stories about people purchasing condos or even homes, freehold homes, and delays in the building. Oh, it's going to be another year. Tamina, is it even something that's a good idea to talk to the builder about, well, what if there are delays? How are they going to be managed? Is that a good idea when you're making the purchase?
So what a piece of document that's always in the part of the agreement of purchase and sale agreement is the statement of critical dates, which essentially tells you the tentative closing dates and the final tentative closing date. I think it's very important to be up to date with the progress of construction of your project. I mean, I know that myself, I would email my builder once a month to get an update, even though they would set a certain timeline. I wanted to be prepared because in the industry with new builds, sometimes it happens that, the builder doesn't tell you when the closing is. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks out, they send an email saying your closing is happening in 2 weeks. And then now you're scrambling. You have to get your mortgage in place. You have to get your finances in place. You have to reach out to your lawyer. So it's always good to be prepared, which is why I'm a big fan of, following up and making sure everything is up to date just so that you're prepared when that date comes.
Yeah, so on this question of delays, so I agree with Tamina 100%, right? Being proactive and staying informed is a great idea. And you can have conversations with your builder early on, but certainly don't rely on any sort of verbal representations on what's being said in terms of, what you can rely on and in terms of timing, because those can always change. Make sure you do go through the addendum and the statement of critical dates that are part of the agreement of purchase and sale with your lawyer in detail and make sure you understand them, because they set out the initial dates. They set out how those dates can be extended, what kind of notice you get for those kinds of extensions. And so you'll know what you're entitled to on that front, and what happens if that notice is not provided, what happens if dates are missed. It's all in there. And if, with your agreement of purchase and sale, with the statement of critical dates, with the rest of the addendum, if there are things you don't understand, ask questions and keep asking questions until you do understand it, right? So you want to have somebody sort of in your corner. You want to have your real estate lawyer. You want to talk to them. You want to make sure you understand the process, and ask questions until you are comfortable with the information that you have.
All right. I mean, in closing, I think I wanted to ask both of you if you had any final thoughts, perhaps strongest advice you can give to somebody who is looking to purchase a new home. Tamina, I'll start with you.
My final advice would be to get informed, ask for expert advice before making any informed decision.
And Catherine?
If it's important, put it in writing.
Always great advice, not only just for buying new homes, for so many things. Oh, this has been so interesting, and I'm glad that Catherine brought it up, and we mention it on every episode. There are some great resources on the Tarion website, including the Learning Hub, lots of interactive modules to educate yourself more on the warranty. This has been terrific. Tamina Ahmadi, Catherine Longo, thank you both so much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information on how Tarion can help you navigate and receive the coverage you are entitled to, go to tarion.com/learning hub. You've been listening to Unpacked, a Tarion podcast about the new home journey in Ontario.
This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.